What do you desire? What makes you itch? What would you like to do if money were no object? How would you really enjoy spending your life?
Do you want to maybe like give us a bit of a rundown of the book? Like walk us through the book and take me on a little bit of like a journey
Yeah.
of the start of it, the start of it, and like the whole thing.
Yeah. So the book, My Many Me's and More Disorders, it's in like two sections. So the first part is my story, and then the second part is just giving alternative resources and like the backing of my experiences and whatever I went through. So my story is about having seizures. I think I started having them when I was 15 years old, and they were non-epileptic seizures, pseudo-seizures, I think they were called. So they would last anything from an hour and a half to 2 hours and a half, and it was really, stressful on the body. And it obviously made it really hard to go to school, and I was withdrawing heaps from my friendship circles and basically everything, family, friends, as well as school. I did not like school, so I was kind of happy leaving. But it was a really hard time for me because I was in and out of hospital, and the doctors, they didn't really know specifically what it was. They just had a bunch of opinions, and they said that I had a possibility of schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depression and anxiety, and an eating disorder. And hearing that when you're 16 years old is a lot, because you're still at a very vulnerable age and you're trying to figure out who you are and where you fit in the world, and being told that you might be slightly crazy. It wasn't really, it wasn't good for me. And I fell into a really deep depression. And I think through going through the alternative way and more holistic side of things, and seeking out help with people that work with energy and like also naturopaths, I kind of understood the root cause of my issues. So my whole body was going through this heightened experience where it was just like it was on overdrive, and there was so much energy within my body, it had to be released. And it was all through physical trauma, mental trauma, and my body just couldn't handle it, so it had to shake. And each time I had a seizure, for some reason, I was more clear, had so much clarity. I was beginning to kind of tap into energy fields, and there was information that was coming through that I was receiving that was always beneficial to me and my surroundings. So it was a very interesting time. And that's kind of when I dabbled into a bit more spirituality. But I don't usually like saying spirituality because now there's a lot of, people are sort of woohoo sort of stuff. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's very personal. And I think everything that I've learned from these experiences, like hearing voices and seeing spirits, is something that I usually keep to myself, because I don't want to tell somebody that this is what it is, because we all live in our own realities. We all have our own perspectives, and, something that's very true for me could be wrong for somebody else. And I'm okay with that. And because I've been hearing these voices and I've been seeing spirits, and they've all been mostly beneficial, and I'm not harmful in society, so I'm all right. But going through all of these experiences made me see the bigger picture, and I wanted to share my story because there's a lot of kids going through, I guess, similar experiences, but like the withdrawal from school and the loss of connection within communities, and realizing that there needs to be a shift in our consciousness and within the way that we think. So, yeah.
What I mean, you don't necessarily need to go into it, but like what sort of caused these maybe traumas, or this overflow or buildup of energy that needed to, get out through shaking, through seizures.
Yeah. So when I was younger, I didn't know it then, but I could see that my body was trying to release these certain emotions. And the more that I had them, the more that I could see my emotional body and the way that the way that I was thinking all the time would create like just a different, how do I say this? So the thoughts that I was thinking were creating the situations that I was attracting into my life. So feeling, let's say, unworthy and insecure, I would bring that forth into situations, into my life, and then my body would be trying to release that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that really makes sense.
No, it does. It's like you're manifesting your actual reality and by
Yeah,
giving out a certain energy because of the way like the things you're thinking and the thought patterns you're going through, and it's just like making all of this more true kind of thing, right?
yeah,
Have I understood that?
yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was an interesting experience, and I feel like a lot of younger children that are coming in now, they're coming in with a heightened sensitivity, and we're realizing a lot more about who we are than, let's say, the older generations when they weren't really allowed to think about who they were. They just had to, had to go to war and they had to go to work, and then that was it. And this generation is more understanding and more consciously aware of who we are and I guess the greater life lessons. And because there's a confusion within the generations, there's not a space where a lot of young people can feel really seen, because you usually go to your authorities to feel safe and get directed into something that could help you. But if there's like that lack of understanding, it is a lot for people that don't have the support system to kind of open up to their real sensations of who they are.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What's like the most helpful thing that you sort of did to handle all of this, or spoke to certain types of people? I know
Yeah.
you mentioned holistic like health and all, so I'm just interested, like, what are the avenues you kind of went through, and what was most helpful for you?
So the most helpful was eating right, the nutrition, and gratitude was the best one that really helped me. Understanding that appreciation and gratitude can fix many problems. So just with starting out small, you start appreciating everything, like a roof over your head, clean water, food on the table. You know, I got all my limbs working. I can walk and run and like just anything and everything you start to appreciate, because you're constantly programming your mind into appreciation. You're attracting all of the heightened states of emotions to come into your life. So it just really heals your body when you appreciate, because it goes directly to the heart. And
What about your nutrition, your food? What kind of, like, what did you change? What were you?
yeah, so mostly going through plant-based food. It's trying to stay away from chemicals, because all products within the supermarket is usually bombarded with chemicals and what's the other word? Just unhealthy things that they try.
Pesticides,
Yeah.
pesticides,
Yeah.
hormones.
All
I
the
think.
ones that you can't pronounce on the label, they're not good.
Yeah. Okay. So so my partner studies nutrition, and
Hmm.
she told me, this is like the most insane thing she's told me, that they basically have like these. So if something says like sugar free, it is technically sugar free, but what the companies have done is just make the same thing basically as sugar, like the sweetener, in a lab
Yeah.
that makes it taste the same, and they've given it this long as name
Yeah.
that obviously no one understands, and then put that in there, and they say
Yeah.
sugar free. But it's like,
And it's probably worse for you than sugar.
yeah, yeah. Oh my, I'm like, are you serious? And like, you don't even. it
Yeah,
just
I know.
gives
It's
me the
crazy.
shakes. Like I hate it. And now I sort of like we kind of shifted to eating like all organic and like
Mm,
just like I spend like all my money on food basically.
yeah.
It's like all I spend my money on. But yeah, okay. So
Mm,
change your diet to mostly plant based, like removing like chemicals and like
yeah.
pesticide sort of stuff.
Mhm.
Okay. Now I'm also a little bit interested about you said spirituality before. I know you don't mention spirituality. I also agree. Like the word spirituality kind of comes with this like
Yeah.
weirdness about it because of the popularity or trendiness of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
what
for sure.
for you, like what would you define spirituality like for you?
I guess it would all tie down to there is a higher intelligence at play, and it is a loving intelligence, and it's within all of us, it's within life, like the trees and the birds and just all that magical stuff. But there's because there's this intelligence that runs through our veins and the same, how do I say this? So the same energy that is creating supernovas in distant galaxies and creating stars to align runs through our veins. And for that, we don't need to look anywhere outside ourselves because we already have everything within ourselves.
Hmm.
And making the time to go within and realizing that we have everything is really powerful. And I believe that over time, we're very heavily programmed in society to think less of ourselves. It's even the construct of school, the school system. Like they're not, there's no creative essence, and they're killing creativity in kids, which is ultimately what helps them develop their brain and become geniuses. So
Hmm.
they're just going within and opening up to this intelligence really can transform your life within any limitation that you've placed upon yourself, whether it's a labeling of a disorder or it's like ADHD or like a depression, anxiety, anything. You knowing that there's something there that can help you get out of it, because surrendering into it is just incredible.
Hmm.
And it's really hard for me to, say this sorts of stuff to certain people because the energy level's just not quite there, that they won't understand, which is totally fine because it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe that there are like spirits and energies, everything. It's like this computer that we're doing this podcast on, it's vibrating at a certain frequency in order to hold its base. And we as humans vibrate at certain frequencies, like negative people on a lower frequency, people that are really happy and appreciative, they vibrate on a higher frequency. And basically just everything's energy. And
Yeah.
whatever we are, we attract. And it's understanding that is a really powerful thing because you start to realize your self-talk is so important. You need
Hmm.
to start like talking about how much you love yourself, but in a sense of, I'm not going to do this. Like, let's say you have a tie to a toxic behavior or, an ex, or you have a sugar craving or like just anything. You're going to say to yourself, is this loving to me if I continue down this path? And if it's not, because you love yourself that much, you're not going to continue. Um, but yeah, kind of rambled on a little
No,
bit.
I like it. It's good. It's I a couple of things. So I also think like the whole when people ask me about spirituality, because I ask you this because someone also asked me 2 podcasts ago. One of my guests asked me back, and it's sort of similar. Like the universe it just has this way about it that it just sort of exists, and there's something going on where it is just manifesting itself. Like stars explode, things happen,
Mm.
gravity's just going along, and like our life is just like a bleep and gone, and
Yeah.
we're just a part of this much, 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 much bigger thing that exists. And so that, first of all, like that I sort of agree. Like, yeah, that's how I think of it. And if you asked me a while ago, maybe a couple of years ago, about things like manifesting an energy and like spirituality, I would
It's
have
three
been like,
o'clock.
I can cut that out. um, and like anything like of that category or topic, I would have been like, nah, I don't believe it. I don't. If I can't see it, if it doesn't make sense to me, it doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. And but the difference is the thing that switched for me, which is probably something that could help a lot of other people try to understand this, is the other thing you said about everything is energy. Like things have like an atomic frequency and vibration that they're working at, and that's
Yeah.
like a fact. That's a scientific fact. We know that everything is vibrating at these frequencies. That's why the wall is all a wall and solid, because that's how everything's working. And then when you think on such a small scale of like subatomic particles, like if I can change the way I feel and vibrate and try to influence that, like that actually can have an effect on things.
Yeah.
And so it kind of made sense, like scientifically. And to me, that's just like, whoa. Then I sort of started changing, and the way I started doing things started changing. And even like the podcast, like I do certain things like affirmations and all sorts of stuff for the podcast. And it's just like ingraining this and becoming it and like envisioning that and feeling not me now, but like me already with a podcast that is doing what I want it to be doing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just sort of like makes sense,
Mhm.
And I hope people can like listen to this and maybe like change their mind or be curious about it and try to see that. Because it's an awesome and interesting topic.
Mm. Yeah, it's something that I really love talking about. And there's an amazing guy called Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's
Yeah.
amazing. Oh, love him.
Yeah.
Like when he comes in with just science and he like demystifies the mystical, really,
Yeah.
and just shows it with hardcore evidence is something that's fantastic. And I recommend everybody to look him up and follow his work because it is just incredible. And that's one of the things that really helped me along my journey, which I'm really grateful for.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
so nice. Yeah, he's really good. He has there's one of his like main most popular books.
Becoming supernatural, or
Maybe
the
it's
habit one.
maybe the habit one. It's about just like changing your frequency or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, that I've been meaning to read that. It's like on my list, but I haven't got there. But I've seen a lot of his podcasts and him as a guest on podcasts, and it's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Like
he's phenomenal.
yeah, and talking about how he's literally done work with people who have had like stage 4 cancer and like irreversible illnesses, and
Yeah.
he's gone to work with them, and they've just completely reversed it. And
Yeah.
I feel like still people would be like, I don't believe it.
Yeah,
Like that's how
absolutely.
incredible it is. So yeah, I also recommend to people listening. Joe Dispenza's great.
Yeah.
Um, I was gonna say before about like your experiences with your seizures. You said like 1 to 2 hours.
Yeah.
Everything that I know about seizures is very different because my auntie's epileptic, so that's like I imagine extremely different type of seizure. Can you just try to explain a little bit what the experience is like?
Yeah, so I can feel them coming on, so it's not at a high risk. So
What's that like?
I don't know, it's kind of like this weird energy, and I get very numb, and my mood kind of plateaus, and it's like the calm before the storm, really. And then I mostly in the beginning stages, I think for the first year, I'd usually go limp and I'd fall to the floor, and I would have very different experiences on each one, but mostly it would just be I'd be half conscious. So I'd sometimes fall asleep while I had the seizure, and then I'd wake up, and then I would just keep on convulsing. So my whole body was going, legs to the arms, and yeah, I'd have trouble breathing most of the time. So you'd have to watch me just in case. So yeah.
Okay. That must feel. What's it like afterwards? Because you said you also had like some experiences that sort of like maybe communicated to you. What's the after experience like?
So after, I would feel extremely exhausted.
Yeah,
It's like I
can
did a full
imagine.
workout. But it was huge clarity. And I always felt like I was a different person when I came out of them, which was very bizarre.
Yeah.
And it was as if I was just elevated into the next year, like I got a degree or something. um, yeah, it was pretty interesting. Yeah.
Do you still experience these or?
So I think my last seizure I had must have been the beginning of the year, and that was only one. And that was only because I was very stressed at the time. So I do have to really watch out when I get stressed. But for the past 3 years, I think I've only had around like six.
Yeah. Okay.
And well, 3 or 2 years, I'm not sure. The time's just
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah. COVID.
Um, yeah, but I think there was also a huge factor to the seizures was because I've got hyperkalemia. It's low potassium levels, and when it
Okay.
gets really low, it's dangerous, and then that also results in seizures. So,
Okay. Yeah. Wow. It sounds very very like it takes a lot of a toll on you.
yeah, for
And
sure, as well as my family.
yeah, this is something I was sort of just thinking is like, what's it like for them as well? Because thankfully, I haven't been in a scenario where my auntie's had a seizure. My sister has, and like in bed or like even like down the stairs kind of thing. And I'm fortunate enough not to have had to experience that. So I'm always sort of curious, like what it was like for family members or friends or.
Yeah, so it was really hard on my family. Obviously, my mum the most because I'm her daughter, and obviously her seeing me going through that wasn't really pretty, and nothing a mother should ever have to endure. But I think it was really hard for when there were times where it was really hard to breathe and I looked like I was about to pass on. Um, and even like the heart rate monitors were going. So I
Oh
think it
wow.
really scared my family a lot. Um, yeah. So it was very individual on the way that it affected everyone. But yeah, I think it made us stronger. And yeah.
Yeah. Does that what what do you feel like your most important thing that you've learned about yourself through the past few years has been?
Um, that's a tricky question.
Oh, it's okay. We got time.
um,
Take your time. You don't. It
yeah.
doesn't. You can
Can
think
you
about it.
repeat it slower?
So, what's the most important thing you feel, or impactful thing
Yeah.
that you've learned about yourself
I've
recently?
learned that I have a lot of, I don't know how to say this. I feel like I have a lot of personal wisdom that's run through, I believe, like obviously your ancestors, but it is coming from a scientific point where um, your genes get passed down, right? And the information is carried within the genes. So I believe that there's a lot of wisdom that I have, not through only just me, but everyone there.
Mm.
And yeah, it's just incredible the things that I kind of just say and write down and can understand. So,
Do you have any like examples or anything that stands out that you feel like you? I guess like if you were to, if I was someone that you want to like spread some or share some of this wisdom with, what are some of the most important things you'd want to get across to me and like communicate to me or the broader world?
Yeah, so I would say the most important one for me is for people to realize how amazing we are as humans. Like our potential is so vast, and everything that's going on, we're kind of being shoved into a little small box, and we're not able to see the light that we have. And really, just every day realizing that we're so lucky to be alive, and we're so lucky to have the experiences that we do have, and there's nothing that you can't do. And knowing that full-heartedly is just the most incredible thing. And just, like, you're going to make mistakes. We're all human. But just knowing that one day we might be going to be dead, but like it won't matter. So just live out your life and do whatever you need to do, because it's not going to matter one day.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, we live on a floating rock. Like, come on.
Yeah. I find it, for me, the most helpful thing that I think I've been able to do recently is when something's happening, I just think of whatever it is on like a universal scale.
Yeah.
And then I realize like, oh, it's not really that bad, like I'm
Yeah.
gonna just
Getting a
like,
perspective.
yeah.
So
And
much
I'm just
better.
like this massive like wideness where like I sometimes imagine like I'm sitting on the moon looking at Earth and it's just like, huh, like it's so small. Like that
Yeah.
stuff is like so far away and it doesn't like, it's like a tiny blip in the
Yeah.
life of the universe.
Yeah.
But I had a question about you said like seeing this light and people are capable of amazing things. How do you think you teach people that? Because I've found in my life that it can be. I sort of look at the world this way as well, like
Mhm.
similar to you. But I think sometimes I try to communicate this to someone or express it to someone, and I can have some difficulty trying to like get them to see what I'm getting at. Or
Yeah.
how would you, what would you do to, I guess, get someone to try to understand this or see their own life like this? Because it's hard for people, I think, sometimes to look at themselves and
Yeah.
really feel that love for themselves, or
Yeah, for
you know,
sure. I think the first thing that I would say is realizing that your emotions is just like a chemical response to something that you're interpreting. So, also that we're very addicted to certain emotions, and it all basically stems back from your childhood and the way that you perceived love and the way that you perceived everything. So, understanding that you can and you have the potential to control your emotions is something so powerful, because once you sit back and you realize, okay, what emotions have I been addicted to? So for instance, for me, I was addicted to guilt and shame and insecurity and unworthiness, and I was emulating all of those emotions consistently, and I was attracting the exact same situations in order for me to feel those emotions. So everyone goes within their life and they live life and they get addicted to these emotions. But for so many people in later years, it's so programmed into their minds that they don't even know that they're feeling this constantly. And starting to realize what the emotions are, like whether it's anger for somebody that has random outbursts and whatever. And when you're in an angry situation, you're like, okay, now I've got to change this. And it's really hard for some people to do that. It's like if we had an argument and you were like you were throwing stuff and you were yelling at me, and I'd just be like, hey, change your emotion. It's hard to do
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But like starting out and breathing and realizing like, okay, this is just an emotion. It's gonna change in maybe a day or two. But it's realizing that you can and you have the power to change your emotions and working with it. Like it does take time, but whatever you practice, you become better at. So, yeah, swapping the negative emotions for the positive emotions. And yeah, just being really mindful of what emotions you're addicted to.
Yeah, the interesting thing for me here is like how it's the difficult thing, sorry, is that trying to get someone to, or someone trying to actually say to themselves, I am addicted to these emotions, is like,
Yeah.
you know, you could tell someone all you want, but
Hmm.
fundamentally they need to somehow come to this realization and conclusion themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that I found like that is a massive barrier or blockage for people to like be able to like look at themselves and essentially like look at yourself and say, how I am right now is like just objectively look at themselves and say, how I am right now is maybe not the perfect version of myself.
Yeah.
And I am probably doing things that are either hurting myself or hurting other people, and like having to accept that. And there's this massive complicated cycle of like shame, because if you do if you say that and you say, oh, I'm doing things that hurt people, then there's like shame and guilt that also
Hmm.
then pop up, and then all sorts of other stuff, then like withdrawing and or maybe
Yeah.
overcompensating for other things. And it's so complicated, and that's why I love to talk about it, because it's so many different experiences from people, but I feel
Mm.
like fundamentally like we're all trying to get to like the same sort of thing, but
Yeah.
everyone's got
Exactly.
a different experience of like getting there and or experiencing that. But yeah, it's so complicated, you know.
Yeah. And I feel like you have to really just make a decision. Like you need to know that you want to change. Otherwise, if you're really comfortable in your life, not really excelling in the way that you want to, it's not for everybody. And people aren't on the self healing journey. But the people that are and that are ready, I think it's good for them to hear this.
Mm.
But yeah, there's also no judgment for people that aren't really ready to move beyond their, yeah, I say victimhood,
Yeah.
which is a bit harsh, but like I was a victim, as in like I used to have a pity party all the time, and I used to bring up my past experiences, and I'm like, yeah, but I am this way because this happened to me 5 years ago, and I still haven't emotionally moved on from this. But I would always use it as a I'm not doing better in life because this happened to me, and I surrendered my power from that bad experience. But I knowing now is like you're giving that away to something that isn't happening now, hasn't happened and won't happen. And it's like it's in your past, just leave it there and move on. And it is hard for some people. Don't get me wrong. I was in a really difficult situation myself, and I didn't even see any way out of it.
Mm.
Like I thought I was ready to, like that was it. This life's over. I can't deal with it. So I understand where some people are coming from, but ultimately, you have to be the one telling yourself, okay, enough's enough, and I want a better life. So yeah,
Mm.
just making a clear decision.
Yeah. What about envisioning yourself, like a different version of yourself? I've spoke to some people before, and for me, the biggest like moment for me is that I actually sort of like took a look at myself and then saw who I was then in reality, from my reality, I guess, from my own perspective, and then as objectively as I could, I guess, and then like made this version of myself that I tried to like that's what I want to turn into and create
Yeah,
this and to envision that. But sometimes it can be difficult to envision anything other than what you are now. You know, like because maybe you're too close to it all,
yeah,
too close to all the action.
yeah.
And I don't know. Do you have anything to say on like ways to try to like change the way you look at yourself?
Yeah, just in the beginning, small baby steps is a huge thing. Just starting off with appreciation. Even
Mm.
if you don't believe it, you start saying it so often that it becomes something that's ingrained. So I guess just affirmations of I love myself. You look in the mirror and you just say I love you, like just constantly. And it might not feel right in the first month or so, but if you're dedicated into wanting to be able to love yourself, you just go for it, because it becomes more common, more ingrained, and then you just wake up one day and you just laugh and you say that you love yourself because you really feel it.
Yeah, self-love is so strong, so powerful. I
Yeah.
feel a lot of and you mentioned before self-talk, the way you talk to yourself in your mind. That's a big one. That is seemingly I've noticed sometimes just like socially acceptable to like talk so negatively to yourself.
Yeah.
It's really common. I just hear people on the
It
side of the street,
is.
like next, if I was at a, at a bar or just out doing something, or I'm hearing people talk about themselves, not even in my conversation, I can just hear them saying like, I'm shit, or oh, I'm this, I'm that, or I suck, I could never. And
Yeah.
my mind's like, don't talk to yourself this way,
Yeah.
you know? It's, and it's become, I think, like a massively socially acceptable thing to do,
Yeah.
where I think, imagine we came from a place of like, this is like really not acceptable. Like you can't be talking to yourself this way and negatively. It's doing nothing but harming yourself, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And like even I find out when I go out with my girlfriends, I'm like, oh, it's a really nice top. And they're like, oh, I only got it like half price, and it was like, this old thing. They're never like, oh yeah, it is really beautiful.
Yeah.
They're always downgrading it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
Yeah. It's hard to, it's so interesting sometimes to try to put yourself in different people's shoes and experiences, and like, everyone's gone through something so different.
Yeah,
And I feel like it would be a lot more helpful if we could somehow try to get like one thing for us all to be on the same page for,
yeah,
and if we can just get like one little thing, then maybe that'll start like a much bigger, effect, or a domino effect or whatever.
yeah.
Do you think do you think there's any hope in a world where we could essentially have, after generation non like, or like, I guess I want to sort of say like a more stable emotional existence as a species? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's something that I've like wanted to create through
Mm,
YKids Hub, my organization.
perfect segue.
And, and it's so basically what I wanted to create is a place where you go. I think it's ages from 4 to 12 is supervised, and then 13 to 18 or 20. I can't remember. Got to figure that out. But it's a place where you can go, and it's very community driven, very community orientated. And there's kitchens, teach you how to cook. There's gardens, teach you how to grow your own produce, and then teach them how to all the nutritional values and putting the good foods in your body and how it actually stimulates your mind. And just having areas where kids can do their homework, and if the kids aren't at school because they through COVID now, heaps of kids are homeschooling and they lose the social interaction. So just opening a space where they can come, have that social interaction, and also learn. And basically, it's like a school of life, understanding everything that they don't teach in school with a
Nice.
support system that's really just there to love you, and back to basics, which we need. And that quote saying takes a village to raise a child is so true, and we do need other people to really create a sense of family and community, and which will also help the development of every single child. So yeah, just really creating something like that is
Yeah.
very beneficial.
Yeah. Childhood is such like a fragile thing, right?
Mm. They're all sponges. They're just like
Yeah.
looking at everybody and picking up the types of behaviors that their parents are having and the way that they interact with one another. They're picking that up and they're like, okay, I'm going to have to use that now.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And I think
sometimes it's not that great.
yeah, for sure. I think well actually so my what I would classify as a mentor, but I don't think he would even know that that's what he is. He said to me that he believes like the world is the way it is, um, mostly because of very very hurt men and
Mm,
men who have not dealt with their selves, their traumas,
yeah,
their emotions or whatever it is that have turned into this very chaotic place, and that healing is the most necessary thing to happen for everyone.
yeah,
And it makes you think about how when you when you're growing up, like you said, you're just a sponge, and when you have these people, parents, men and women obviously, um, who are just projecting towards their children, and these children are just absorbing these things. They don't know, nothing's happening, and it just creates this like what seems to be normal now, right? Like this, just like that's how things are. But
mm,
when you actually think about it, it's like a very, very strange way that our society has like evolved, right?
yeah,
And I completely agree with like a village to raise a child, and this whole you want this sense of community, all these things that I feel like we lack actually quite a lot. I don't know about everywhere else in the world, but I feel like in Australia,
yeah,
even in
it's
Melbourne,
true.
it's very like separated still, and a
Yeah,
lot of our societies I feel like today are very separated. But
yeah,
I go overseas to, um, just any. I think even like Europe is a little bit more like connected and
yeah, for
than
sure.
than here. It's just a bit more like relaxed, friendly, like back and forth. Like yeah,
Mhm.
friend, come on, like let's go. Where
Yeah,
here, I don't necessarily like walk down and speak to many people across the
yeah,
road, or like it's very 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 separated, which is like
yeah.
opposite of what I think
More
we need.
connection. Mm. Yeah, it's like when you go to Greece and you see all the young kids talking to the old people and
Yeah,
listening to them, all their wise stories and the way that they interact with one another. And it's like if a young teenager is doing something out of the odds, the parents are like, oh, the people around the village will kind of put them in line, and then they have everybody kind of governing each other.
mm,
So it's really essential to have that. And yeah, here I think like after COVID especially,
yeah,
because we've been locked in our houses, not being able to go out and socialize, we became kind of more susceptible to staying at home because we got used to it. And especially with technology, I mean, it's easier to text someone than go for a coffee with them
yeah,
because now our generation's like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do it. It's
yeah,
just easier to stay home, which is not that great and healthy for us. So.
yeah. Like community for me, I think is something I feel like maybe I'm like lacking a little bit in my life is or my requirements I feel maybe aren't being met or I'm not being fulfilled in this area of community that I feel like is probably so necessary for everyone.
Yeah.
And I've always sort of wanted to, I've just like had this thought of whatever I sort of want to do is like a community based or something. It doesn't need to be like a literal community in like a
Yeah.
suburb. It could
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
like it could literally be like an online community. I guess like even the podcast is some way over time maybe going to form a type of community around the podcast and something where it's like people can have positive impact on each other and sharing information and like they don't want anything in return, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Just like a back and forth of
Yeah.
like positive energy and helping and
Mm.
gratitude and appreciation and all of that really good stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have like a do you have like a 10-year goal or like a vision of like what you want to be doing or you just oh yeah.
Yeah, I've got many, many plans because I like to think without limitations. I hopefully want to have like hubs around each suburb in Australia and then go internationally. So when you're linked in to one of, let's say, Melbourne, and then you want to go traveling when you're 16 or 18 and do like an exchange program, you can go to the one in Greece, and then you guys can help out, you do your chores, just giving back, and then you hang out with the kids and you kind of give them your wisdom, and it's all kind of incorporated. Um, but basically, it's kind of like a school for wellness and understanding yourself, knowing that you can do anything that you set your mind to, giving kids the tools to deal with everyday stresses, and building up your mindset. So if we can do that around all these different suburbs and internationally, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Is that your biggest vision?
Yeah, that's
I
my
wanna know.
biggest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. That's cool. I'm excited to see it happen.
Yeah, thank you.
It's doable, you know.
Yeah, hell
Um,
yeah. Why not?
it is, and like there's nothing, like you got nothing to lose, kind of thing. No, no, you
Yeah.
never have anything to lose. I was just talking to Nathan, the previous guest, and we were literally talking about sort of the same kind of thing. Like you have literally nothing to lose, and if you
Yeah.
don't start or go in any direction, that
Yeah.
you're guaranteed to be doing nothing. But if you just start and go in any direction, only growth. You know.
Yeah, it's better to dream big, because like if you don't achieve that exact goal, at least you've just done something a bit below it. So
Yeah, definitely, definitely. You mentioned Greece a couple times,
yeah.
and I know you kind of were just like overseas traveling a little bit. I'm interested to know like how did you find? Was this your first time overseas like that, or?
No, so we went to Germany, and I'm with my mum, and Egypt, I think a few weeks ago. And I've been overseas quite a lot growing up, because mum's side of the family is German, and the whole German side live in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to go there like every 2 years growing up, which was really good.
Nice.
And I think that's so beneficial for, I guess, your development and just understanding different cultures.
Mm.
And it gives you a broader perspective over life
Mm.
at such a young age, which was really beneficial. But yeah, so yeah, I really like the whole culture shift in each area. I want to bring different parts of that to Australia.
What kind of parts from which kind of cultures do you feel
So,
like? Yeah.
yeah, the community sense from Greece,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely love that, because you can just run around in the little platia and everybody's kind of looking out for each other, and there's no real crime and violence. Everyone's just laughing and drinking ouzo, and like,
Nice.
it's just a good time. It's always sunny, and they're getting their vitamin D, and they're eating good fish, and just, yeah, I really like that. So we need to relax. We're too,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's definitely one thing I found from Europe is that it is just so relaxed,
yeah,
so chilled out, and like
mm,
there's rules, but like there's like also like not rules, but like no one's
yeah,
doing like really bad things. It's just like you know like standing holding the outside of a tram that like the driver's like yeah it doesn't matter it's cool like those
yeah,
little things you
yeah,
know
yeah. It's so different. I like it.
yeah and I noticed actually the this is a funny one I forget who I was talking to recently but um the one of the things that I noticed is that in well we were in Portugal I was in Portugal this year but across a lot of Europe the street lights are actually yellow and here they're white and it makes actually such a difference when you're going out at night it's like much more mellow. I
Yeah.
realize like maybe we should just change some street lights here, people will be more chilled out. you
You
know
can sign a petition. We'll do it for everyone.
yeah that would be awesome. I would love that.
Yeah.
Make something happen. And
Okay.
now petition though that's a pretty interesting segue
Yeah.
potentially to your whole like freedom party candidate experience.
Mm.
I sort of watched that from afar.
Yeah.
You were actually. I'm just gonna butcher it. You can just explain what it was and what your goal was, I guess.
Yeah, so I got asked to stand by a man called Ian Brighthope, who is an amazing guy. Um, he runs the World of Wellness organization, and yeah, so he has ties with people from the Freedom Party, and he's like, "You'd be a great candidate." So I was like, "Hell yeah, I'd love to do it."
Nice.
um, Basically, I wanted to do it for personal experience because I thought it was just going to be such a good learning curve. And I knew that I was going to do a little bit of public speaking, and I really want to do public speaking. So I was like, great, good experience. Let's just throw myself into it. And through that, I just started talking to so many people. I think I was on the phone like every day. I would just, there wasn't a time when I just had 5 minutes to rest. It was just so hectic. And yeah, I was just talking constantly to people and creating events. And it was only in a really short time frame. I think I only had 2 or 3 months while I was running. And it was a new party, so they kind of like were still finding their feet and everything.
Yeah, right, okay.
And it was pretty interesting because we got deemed as neo-Nazis, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, so we did cop a lot of hate. And even people from high school, they had kind of a perspective over the party as that we hated gays, which was not something that we
Yeah.
loved. We loved that, but like, yeah, we kind of just got, yeah, the image was portrayed in a very different way. And because I was running for the party, they all automatically thought that I was inheriting those beliefs. So,
Yeah, right, of course.
yeah, it was also a great experience to learn how to kind of like detach yourself from all that negative
Yeah.
talk. And yeah, it was just, like, it was really beneficial for growth purposes. So, yeah.
Did you have like I can imagine that'd be sort of like daunting. I was also previously just talking in the last podcast about even just like starting a social media and posting on like stuff for the podcast or his channel or whatever it is, and like public speaking. It's so daunting. Do you have many like self doubts and stuff? And like, how do you deal with self doubt?
Yeah, I had a really hard time because there was a time where I was posting heaps and then I stopped. I like deleted Instagram and then changed my whole personality. And then there was a time where I was like, I don't want people to think this about me. And, it was really confronting. And then I decided, no, I have to kind of put myself out there and I need to create an image and a brand. And it's like just going for it. It was a bit hard, but I think the more I did it, the more comfortable I got.
Mm.
And I guess over time, I started realizing if I'm not being my true, authentic self, then it's not really going to work out. So if people they don't like what I am and they don't like my image of what I'm portraying, like with my morals and values and everything, I've got to be okay with that because at the end of the day, you're not going to please everybody. And if you're a friend to everybody, you're an enemy to yourself.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That is a good one.
Very good. I think Mike Tyson said that.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, very
Damn.
smart man.
That's it's interesting, like when you say like what are these people going to think, or pleasing everyone else. I had this thought the other day. It actually could have been yesterday, but it was about how I was so like nervous about posting and like starting to post, and I noticed myself having thoughts like, what is this person gonna think? And it's like this person that I haven't even spoke to for like so long.
Yeah.
Probably haven't even seen him on social media, and I'm just thinking like, what's that person gonna think, or what's this person? And then I like after I posted, I realized like, you know what, I'm not actually even making any of this content for anyone that I even know. Like,
Mm,
I don't care if people around me even listen to it or not. It's for like the rest of the world, the
yeah.
people in the world that will like it.
Yeah.
And it sort of just came upon me like, I don't like this. It does not matter at all what
Yeah.
so and so like from 5 years ago that I met for like 30 seconds thinks about this. You know?
So funny how brain does that to us. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, yeah. Like it's just I don't know. I guess I sort of could figure out why that does happen, because I mean, like, we're social creatures. Like,
Mm,
these are the people we know, and it sort of just turned out that the people we know
yeah.
now through like online are like
Mm,
further away because of like the internet. So I guess, yeah, that does make sense why it's like that, but it is
yeah.
funny.
Well, we all want to be liked, and we don't want to,
Yeah.
show too much of ourselves because that's a bit scary.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, which vulnerability is, being vulnerable like that, opening and being yourself
Mm,
is that's like a whole skill, you know?
yeah, it is for sure.
Do you feel like how do you go with your openness of like
Um,
being vulnerable with yourself? Do you find that's something you're
Yeah, I think in the last like 6 months, I've become more vulnerable. I usually had coping mechanism of just shutting everything out, and I was like, too hard. Bye. Let's not talk about it.
yeah.
So I would never really have a good one-on-one conversation with people and let that vulnerability come out because I would always think I don't want them to like have. I don't want them to feel like see me in a different light, and
Mm,
I don't want them to sympathize for me, and I just want to be strong. I don't want to be weak, and just have this whole dialogue that wasn't really healthy. And now that I know that the more vulnerable you are, and the more that you express what you're actually feeling, it'll only benefit you. And shutting things off only like just creates more tension and more of that thing that you don't want. So I think it is hard in the beginning,
yeah,
obviously,
for sure.
but the more you do it, the more easier it gets. So
Yeah. And I think like it really all it's doing is just delaying the same thing until later on, and
yeah,
like you said, it's just like making a build up, so it's going to be even harder and probably
yeah,
more challenging experience than um like so it's so our brains are so interesting. So like
yeah, literally,
what like so like silly but not silly. You know, like they it's like so
yeah,
incredibly powerful and complex, but then like we just fall into these patterns and behaviors of things that
mm,
when you say like take a step back and look at it, you're like, what are you doing, you
yeah,
know? But
yeah,
yeah, wow, the brain, I've
yeah.
always
It's like your body likes to. This is one piece of information that I just found was so incredible, is where your body sends signals to the brain and it tells you like random things. Like when you have an addiction, let's say there's a piece of cake in front of you and you're like craving that sugar rush,
mm,
your brain's going to be like, oh, start your diet tomorrow. Like tomorrow's a better day and whatever. And those thoughts is your body releasing those in order for you to have that experience. So like we go throughout our lives and our body is signaling our brains to think all these doubts and negative emotions because we're constantly thinking about them.
mm,
So it's like our body is like, and we need to feel safe. We need to feel in the familiar. So we're going to bring up all those emotions that we've been prior experiencing. So when you want to change, it's going to be uncomfortable and hard because your body's not used to it, and that's getting out of the body and mind um, mechanism.
yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah. I've heard some similar stuff on like your gut microbiome
Mm,
and like even like sugar cravings, basically like these little tiny little microscopic little guys just like
yeah.
wanting something for themselves and like making your body send signals to your brain like trying to get it.
Mm,
And I've heard
yeah.
this concept of that. I mean, I guess it's not really like any sort of new concept because I've heard like actually a much old school, like much more old school theory about
Mm,
like does the brain control the body or the body control the brain or the
yeah.
gut? Maybe it's the stomach. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
so that's something I heard from like it's like a really long old thing. But then yeah, this whole like thought of that, you wonder how much your like eating habits or your the food that you're eating influence like your actual behavior. and I
Yeah.
tried like fasting. And I'm also actually trying to do no sugar this month for October, which has been pretty challenging,
Mm.
just to see like what it's like. But when you try to be more intuitive with your body and like eating and stuff, it's pretty crazy how much I realized. Like I'm not even hungry right now, but I'm like looking for food, like not
Yeah.
even thinking about it, or like then how much time you spend with food and thinking about food when I actually like look at it, I'm like just ate something, you know,
Yeah.
like and you just find this autopilot behavior is coming up, you know.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, or like what's like a, I'm interested in like what's a habit you feel like you've done well at breaking, if any, recently.
Oh, I have done many, which I'm really proud of.
Nice.
But I think the most crucial one for me is like I was 7 years bulimic and I got out of that. I did have a relapse one time and then I stopped for I think half a year and then had the relapse. But stopping that addiction was really tough and
Mm.
getting overcoming it was just incredible because with the eating disorder itself, like it has a huge play on your mind. Like you're constantly thinking of food and how you look, and it's just it really like eating disorders is a whole different chapter. But because obviously you're not really giving your brain the right nutrition to function, you're left to some sort of half okay minded person.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, getting over that addiction has made me really, I guess, proud of myself and happy.
Yeah.
But the habitual, something that I practice now and I'm really proud of is that I meditate every day in the morning,
Nice.
an hour. And I've
Wow,
done that
nice.
since February. And yeah, it's just changed my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah. Meditating's awesome. Do you mind if can I ask more about the um bulimia? Is
Yeah,
that the
yeah,
word
yeah.
for it? What's that? I have little to no knowledge or understanding of anything like that. So, can you explain to me like what that actually is? And
Yeah.
yeah.
So bulimia is when you stick your fingers down your throat and you
Mm.
purge. I was purging like it was like 20 to 30 times a day. So I'd be cooking meals and then just going to the toilet, eating, going to the toilet, just like it was a really toxic time. And I was very insecure about my weight. So I also fell into, I had anorexia and obviously that's not really well, it's not good for your brain. So it made me really, I was completely numb. And I had a situation where I was in hospital and I had like one of the nurses come up to me. She sat me down. She was like, if you continue on the way that you're going, you only have like 3 months to live.
Wow.
And at the time, I was so numb to everything that I just didn't really take it on board. It was also kind of my brain not wanting me to kind of process what just had been said. But I think it was, I think a month after that, I was beginning to feel really like physically ill. And I was like, I was passing out in the car while I was driving, and that was
Wow.
not safe. And it was just, everything was completely, yeah, it was just not right. But yeah, it started off when I was 16, and yeah, it just got worse and worse.
Do you what's the like what causes that kind of stuff? Where does that
Yeah,
come
so
from?
I think I backdate it to when I was in primary school in prep.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really conscious about my weight. I was like sucking in my gut when I was 4 years old. Like it was just ridiculous.
Why though? Do you
Um,
know? Do you know why, or like what
I
you're?
don't know. I was just looking at all these girls and they were really skinny, and I had like a bit of a gut, and I was just very conscious about how I looked, and I
Mm.
was getting bullied about my weight, which I wasn't even like fat or anything. I was just, girls can be really nasty when they're younger
Yeah, right.
and
Okay.
older. But yeah, I think the bullying really made me insecure, and yeah, it just got worse and worse from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good job for breaking all that.
Yeah.
Congratulations. The I don't know what just like I don't understand like I guess so how long did that last?
The
Bulimia?
bulimia,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, 7 years.
7 years,
So
okay.
yeah, and
And then did you like see psychologists for that or how do you even go about breaking that habit?
yeah. Um, well, I did see a psychologist a few times, but I'm not a person that like. I think psychology, like going to see a psychologist, is great. It's fantastic. But I'm very stubborn, and I thought I could do it on my own. So I
Hmm.
just started researching all this sort of stuff and listening to Joe Dispenza and all these amazing, wonderful people talking about reprogramming your mind, and just slowly gaining all the knowledge about how you can change habits and the construct of your mind, and also like the genetical structure. I just began to kind of get out of it slowly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And what's that like what do those little steps look like? Those little baby steps to get out of that. What is it like some examples of like the things that you're doing at the time, maybe like what you're saying to yourself, or if you're I don't know starting some sort of like really intentional habit in a different way. Yeah, like
Yeah.
how are you actually doing that?
In the beginning, when I was like trying to stop, I forced myself to be really busy because I would just constantly think about food, and if I was doing something, I wasn't able to eat. So
Hmm.
I just started coming to my mum's place, and I was started gardening and tearing all the weeds out, and just kept
Mm.
really busy and did that every day. Always find something, and then over time, just different things of listening to like 8 hours of affirmations when you go to bed, because your body is like easily susceptible to hearing those affirmations on a deeper level, like through
Yeah.
different hertz. So kind of slowly brainwashing myself into
Very
loving
nice.
who I am helped a lot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So you started when did you start meditating, you said? February?
So I started meditating in February.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what kind of meditations do you do?
So I mostly do Joe Dispenza's
Yeah,
meditations.
okay.
And what he does is he gets you to focus on space and nothing. And when you do that, your whole body goes into coherence, and it kind of aligns because you're not in the way. It's like your whole body's out of the way, and now the body can just really do what it needs to
Hmm.
do. And when you think about space, you're pulling away from all of the things in your life. So everything in your life, like your family, your pets, your house, your car, all has a energetic information, I guess, kind of like there's a tie with you and those things in life. And when you meditate, you kind of cut all of the information off, and you're open to more possibilities, and open to reprogramming your mind into whatever you really want it to be.
Hmm.
So elevating the emotions and feelings that you actually want to portray during that day in the beginning, because in the morning you're at a very influential time. So just sitting there in the present, focusing and feeling wholeheartedly what type of emotions you actually want to have throughout the day. So it's like love, abundance, wholeness, um, anything. So you just sit with yourself and you really emulate it, and you begin to see so many synchronicities come in and everything just aligning with those emotions that you bring forth in the beginning of the day. So yeah, it's Joe Dispenza has amazing meditations.
Yeah. What's been the biggest change you've noticed for yourself since you started meditating?
I'm more confident,
Oh, nice.
and I am very more aware of how conscious I'm being through my day. So I don't mostly everyone like kind of runs on autopilot, and I begin to step back and I'm like, okay, is this something that I want to bring to my future? Is this feeling and the way that I'm being right now potentially going to help me grow? So I'm very conscious throughout my day now, and my body image has healed a lot. So I'm really fine with who I am, which is fantastic. And yeah, I guess confidence is just a huge thing.
Yeah, nice. Confidence is in the last podcast we were just talking about confidence and how hard it can be
Mm.
to build.
Yeah.
Um, and like, yeah, confidence is really, I from what I've seen, it can be so difficult to build for some people.
Yeah.
So, and I guess like fortunately I've been, I don't really know why, but like somewhat confident of a person like most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like, so to me, I think, like, how can I help another person be more confident? I guess, or like, how can I always want to like help people. I guess I'm like a
Yeah.
fixer, like those people who get told like you're just trying to fix everything, like the boyfriend who's trying to just like fix everything. Um, you know, I try to keep my hands off of stuff, but
Mm.
um, like yeah, it can be hard. I think to change like the way you feel about yourself.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but that's awesome. Meditating. That's an interesting. That's actually the first time I've heard anyone say that meditating's helped with their confidence. I feel.
Yeah,
Um,
it's an odd one.
no, it's not odd. It's just I haven't heard of it before.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, well, I I asked because I've been asked the same question before, and I try to like think about the benefits of meditating because I feel like when I speak to someone about it and tell them like I meditate, but they don't meditate, they ask like, what's good about meditating, or like why should I meditate? The answer always sort of changes. I feel, but yeah, I think being more like aware of like even your thoughts throughout the day or just the
Mm.
things that you're doing is like a big one for me. Even like going to brush my teeth. I just think at the time of brushing my teeth, I try to like like look more at myself, like objectively, kind of like view myself while I'm brushing my teeth or doing these like small tiny tasks of
Mm.
like nothingness that you would typically be on autopilot, and then like translating that or slowly turning that into like now when you're feeling emotions, do the same thing because that's like a whole other ball game, and just like slowly, incrementally, just like working on this thing that helps with like keeping yourself centered and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did a. Have you heard of Vipassana meditations?
No, what's that?
So I did a last year. Wait, no, it was this year. A 10-day retreat, like silent
Yeah.
retreat. You can go to these like free courses. It's the first course. In order to do it, you have to do 10 days.
Mm.
Because I guess that's how they like wean out the people that don't want to do the 10 days, I guess. But
Yes.
they teach you the 10 steps. There's 10 days for the 10 steps of what they teach you. So you need to be there the whole time to understand the full thing.
Yeah.
And then after that, you can do like, like 2 days or 3 days, or I guess you could do 20 days if you really wanted to,
Mm.
where it's just like completely silent. Like you can't look at anyone, you can't communicate. You're there with just these random people. It's such a great experience.
Yeah.
Um, Also, like brings up a lot. You have like a
Yeah.
very deep experience, and I feel like it's just so the way to explain it, which is the way the teacher explained it to me before we started, was it's like if you try to tell someone who's never eaten a strawberry what a strawberry is like, but
That's
it
so
just
true.
doesn't work until they try it.
Yeah.
Um,
So true.
So yeah, I always recommend that to people. I say like, hey, if you meditate, and to be honest, even if you don't meditate, there was probably like 5 people that were on my course that had like literally never meditated before, and
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, that's like wild to me because
Yeah.
I don't know how you're doing this, or like I heard about this like a year ago, and I was like, I need to be more prepared for this, so I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I recommend it to everyone. It's really interesting, and like there is no like it's like they make it for like all religions. Like it doesn't matter if anyone has a religious belief or whatever.
Yeah.
It's more of just like a way of observing yourself, really.
Mm.
So yeah, I always recommend that. Vipassana, it's called.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have another question here. We had the YKids Hub. We spoke about that. Oh yeah, that's right. The process actually of writing the book.
It's 4 o'clock.
Sorry.
I can edit that one out too. Yes, this is a question I had. I butchered the order of all of this, but it doesn't matter. What's it actually like to write a book, or like what's the process like? I'm interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a funny one because I wrote that in 3 months. I just, one day, it was hilarious. My sister, Maddie, we were at a beach and we were arguing. She's like, if you want to do all these amazing things, why haven't you written a book? And I got really hurt by that. And I was like, okay. So I went home and I just started writing. And yeah, I don't know, it just flowed so beautifully. And then Mum helped me kind of make it sound really good, and all the spelling, because I'm dyslexic, so that was a bit of a hard ball. But yeah, I don't know, it was interesting. Yeah, I think I just like wrote from the heart, just belted it all out.
Did you plan the way you wrote it, or did you just write and then that sort of just like created itself?
Yeah, I just started writing and then it just went from there. It was really easy. But I'm writing my second one at the moment, and that's a lot harder.
Okay. What's this one? Can you tell the title? Is there a title?
So it's called Dress Your Mess to Success.
Nice.
So it's all about, yeah, I guess the title's kind of, can understand what the book's about.
Yeah, a little bit. But I continue.
So I do want to simplify like epigenetics and neuroscience in the book, and also talking about how you can take all your past experiences and create them in a way of helping you create success in any area of your life, whether it's like financial or with relationships or friendships, anything. So yeah, I've had a very interesting past. A lot of stuff's happened to me, and I'm so happy that I've come out the other end. And I think it's so vital to tell your story because it makes people know that they're not alone.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that are vital to success with anything in life, relationships, whatever?
So I think with relationships, it's because, everything's a reflection. So, when you're talking to somebody or you get into a relationship and most of it, the way that you're getting treated is the way that you actually treat yourself. So basically understanding that you're the one in the driver's seat and you've got to start realizing like the way that you talk to yourself, the way that you see yourself, and I guess you need to have like a clear image of who you want to be, and you always have to visualize that in order to become it. But just really doing the work within yourself and having a calm conversation and being like, you're only human, I do have faults, we're going to work this out. Yeah. But I feel like the inner work is so essential because that's how you, ultimately attract.
Sorry, my dad just came in the door. slowly creaked my door open and looked at me. Jeez, sorry.
That's all right. I kind of stuffed that one up, so
Take two.
awesome.
No, I don't know where we were at. Jeez, that was so distracting. Wow. Okay. Reflection of each other, real conversation with yourself. We're only human. We all have faults. Continue.
Yeah, so everything's basically a reflection. So once you know that, just start working on yourself and finding out your flaws and working with it, but don't be too hard on yourself because you're still working it out. And yeah, just really like sitting with yourself, having an honest conversation, being like, what do I bring to the table? Because I don't think you should be writing like I'm manifesting. I want my husband to act like this. I want him to adore me. I want him to be wealthy. Whatever. It's like you need to become those in order to attract the exact same person. So, yeah, with relationships, I'd say that, and with success, it's the understanding of and really feeling that you are worthy of having success. Because a lot of people don't feel worthy of having a lot of money, and when they have an opportunity arise and they're given money, they kind of just blow it all away, or they find a way to not accept it. So really getting on top of self-worth and I guess.
So self-worth, you think,
Yeah.
for success? Self-worth. Yeah, okay. Self-worth is... we always seem to come back to the brain being like a silly little thing. Doing all these little unhelpful things for us, But yeah, I think it's interesting to be able to have that vision of yourself, definitely. And I think also for me, like even like your money mindset, and since being in my relationship with my partner, she sort of like taught me or like showed to me more, I guess, like my own money mindset. I always wanted to like, don't spend my money, like a lack mindset with my money, which actually is like quite restricting. And so I sort of just like decided to like just try to change my whole money mindset. I'm like much more like giving and like donating more, and like just caring a little bit less about my money, and it's just seemingly like coming around, and it's like much more less on my mind. And I can see it with some people close to me, how their families, I guess, with like their parents are like this, and then they are also similar, and it's kind of like filtered down, and then they've got the same sort of thing, and then to think any other different way is like ridiculous. Like no, this is how it is, and like this is how you need to be. And so it can be so hard to change like these mindsets and pre-created outlooks on life.
For sure.
All right, well, I have one question I typically ask my guests at the end, which is, right now you have 1 million ears you'd have 2 million ears listening to this, so 1 million people listening, and you can say whatever you like. What's the bit of information you're sharing with this million people?
Show more appreciation and gratitude, and meditate.
Nice.
Basically.
That's perfect.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Awesome. I thank you so much. We've come at a pretty good time, I think.
Thank you.
And yeah, I really appreciate you coming on, Tash, and super excited to post this. And it'll be a little bit of time, I think, before this one's posted. But yeah, thank you so much.
You're awesome. Thank you very much.
No worries. Yeah, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.